Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Maestro moment. Super excited about tonight's show. As a band director, there's always that challenge. We are quite often, we refer to ourselves as being married to our work. And it is a challenge finding that balance between relationship, home, being a band director, which is so time consuming, probably now more than ever with COVID and everything. And I'm looking forward to talking to a couple tonight who take relationship and work to a whole new level. They work with each other. They're both phenomenal wind band phenomenal musicians and major figures in the wind band world. And we're going to talk to them a little bit, get to know them. Stephen and Verena Mösenbichler-Bryant. I'm going to have to ask her how to pronounce that last name because it is a challenge for me, but super excited about that. So a couple of weeks ago, we had on Alfred Watkins. If you missed that interview, definitely go check that out. What an amazing figure who just did some amazing things with this program. And before that, we had Eugene Corporon on. One of the things that we start out doing is talking about the news of the times. And probably the biggest thing is that we're seeing so many people, so many school divisions transitioning into in person. And quite often we're looking at hybrid situations where part of the band is at home and part of the band is in school. So I've got my colleague Josh on with us tonight. So we're going to bring him on and kind of talk about our transition because we just transitioned into the hybrid situation here in our district. So Josh, I'm curious, how are things going for you with your band program?
Yeah, they're going well. It's certainly not a normal March in the band world.
It gives a whole new meaning to March Madness.
I mean, we're all getting. I'm sure everyone's getting their time hop and their Facebook memories of like pulling their hair out, or whatever other people that don't have hair do, or stressing about MPA and prepping for sight reading and bringing in guest clinicians. Like, this is the time of year where our programs are really firing on all cylinders. And like, I think that longing for that is even our kids are even feeling that right now. But it's a lot for us. And we are all dealing with these changes as they come. Sometimes every week is different. So like you were saying, Aaron, our district, we moved into hybrid learning, about 3 weeks ago now, right?
Yep.
So
started transitioning them in.
And it's interesting because Aaron and I are the only two high schools in town, and our schools are very different as far as how they're constructed. Because Aaron's school is much older, and my school is just shy of 20 years old. So our spaces don't allow for the same approach. Our district has laid out some pretty specific guidelines that follow along with the recommendations that we're seeing from these studies that are coming out and that NAFME and our NCMEA have been promoting. So we have both been approaching rehearsing differently. Well, Aaron, you're in your band room, right?
Yeah.
And I can't be. I've got 20 some kids in one of my cohorts, and we just can't fit in there. So we're actually in our auditorium right now. So what we do is I have the kids. Each kid has their own music stand. It's labeled. Nobody else ever touches it. They've got at least 10 feet, if not more, spread between them. I've got a microphone that's going to the house, so I can talk to the kids at the back of the hall. I've got on our projector on stage what the kids at home are seeing as well, which is a Google slide presentation with sight reading and warm-ups and smart music. I have a TV that's displaying the Zoom windows, so my kids in person can see their peers, or at least their avatars, because I don't know about everybody else, but my kids' cameras haven't been on for months now. So it's a lot. I'm a fairly ADD person, and I feel like I'm usually pretty good about managing a lot of things at the same time. But we were both saying that feeling of I'm not doing this very well is is a lot, because there's times where I'm like, I don't know how effective this is being right now.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it's almost like being a first year teacher again, because you're learning all new techniques to how you do things. After a few years of being a band director, you kind of get in the groove of things and how you start structuring, and we always grow and evolve and stuff like that. But the strangest balance, and I guess the biggest question that I have as a band director is how effective am I being with my kids at home? Because I'm with you. We're rehearsing music, and thank God for the flex arrangements for us. And I'm looking forward to talking to Steven later about some of his work, because he's done some amazing things. He's got a brand new thing that we're going to talk about that I think a lot of people are going to be excited about. But we are doing the flex arrangements with the kids that show up in person, and then streaming that. I invested in some nice condenser mics to pick up a little bit better, more robust sound of the ensemble in the band room, and then streaming that into what the kids are doing at home so that they can pull out their music, play along with us. They're playing. The concept is that they are in the rehearsal with us. But like what you were saying, I don't know how. I ask them constantly. I'm getting positive feedback from them. The kids that give feedback, and they're enjoying that. But I'm just wondering, how effective it is and whatnot.
Yeah, well, and we're trying to do what's best for the kids that are in the room, but simultaneously doing what's best for the kids who are at home, who either may not feel comfortable being home, or maybe they can't. I mean, we have a lot of kids that are taking care of younger siblings at home, or because their parents are working multiple jobs. Kids, I don't know about you, but I've got a ton of kids that are leaving to their working jobs now to try to help. And we're in a situation we're pretty lucky as far as having a one-to-one school, having the technology, the internet access, the hotspots for the kids who are at home. So I can't even begin to imagine what some of our colleagues are doing in places where that's not possible. And we were just saying a while ago that one of the benefits of moving into this in-person reality now is actually getting an honest assessment of where our kids are now versus where we would expect them to be in March, and how that is informing the decisions we make as far as programming and what we're working on for the rest of the year, and then how we plan for the fall.
Which brings us some, I was talking to you about this. One of my biggest concerns as somebody new to this program, I came in the middle of all this stuff, and Orange High School has a history of being a great program. The directors before me established a phenomenal program with some really great young musicians, and the whole pandemic is causing me to think about how is this going to impact from a recruitment and retention standpoint to maintain the level of the programs and everything. So what are some of the things that you've been doing that has brought you some success with the recruitment and retention side of things?
Well, at this point, it's all hopeful successes, right? We're all hoping that this is going to pan out. I would say in general, don't be afraid, not being afraid to lean on your colleagues. I mean, you and I we teach in a small district. So there are 5 of us, 2 high school, 3 middle school directors, and we are constantly in communication with one another. So that piece, definitely that interaction definitely helps to build that bridge between 8th grade and 9th grade. And that's where programs lose kids. Typically, once we get them in the door and they see what it is, then they want to be more invested. But just trying to maintain some sense of normality, trying to say, okay, so here's our audition schedule. Here is the letter of intent. Talking to kids about what the opportunities are, that you want to share the positive attributes of the program, but also encourage kids to think about, what you want to get back to and what you want to be doing again when we've returned to like normal band, and what we can learn from the things that we have experienced over the past year and to continue to improve the program. And then when we talk about retention, the kids that are here now, maintaining them in the program till next year, it's just trying. For me, I've just been trying to keep things from getting stale. I've bringing in guests to talk to the kids and to do some different conversations and to share different experiences. We got to chat with Angel Velez a week or so ago, who is a conductor for the Los Angeles Film Conductors Institute. He's one of the co-founders, and so we got to talk to the guy who conducted some of the Mandalorian music and Star Wars Clone Wars. I mean, that's just so cool. So leaning on things like that, so many of the conversations we've had have been geared toward look at these experiences that you can have through music.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
And so that's sort of been one of our driving things is being a part of a band is so much more than just da 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 da. It's about what the experience can bring to you, about being a part of something that's greater than, the self.
Yeah, most definitely. All right. Well, I'm going home, and I am home right now. But, I've been.
Aren't we all?
I am taking notes, and I'm going to be implementing some stuff in the coming days and everything. So, Josh, thank you for sharing some thoughts and just showing us some of the things that you've been successful with. I know that there's probably a lot of band directors out there that are looking for things that are going to make their programs better. So thank you so much. But people did not come in here to hear us talking. They came to hear a little bit and learn a little bit more about Stephen and Verena Bryant. So we got a short promotional video from Amano Music, and after that, we'll be right back on with Stephen and Verena Bryant.
WinConductor.org's Maestro Moments is brought to you tonight through the support of Amano Music. Amano Music is a collective for composers and a resource to band directors. Find the very best in wind band repertoire, from classic marches updated and edited for contemporary wind ensembles to the latest from innovative independent composers like the piece you're listening to right now, Chatterbox by Jason McChristian. You will also find resources for the band classroom, including books on topics important to band directors, as well as methods like mastering the scales to prepare your band to tackle rigorous repertoire. You can find Amano Music by visiting their website at www.amanomusic.com. That's Amano Music with a double A.
All right. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and invite on our special guest, Stephen and Verena Bryant.
Hi. Thank you for having us.
Hi. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for coming on. Really appreciate it. So, Verena, I probably butchered the daylights out of your name. So would you mind just telling us how to pronounce your last name?
I'm happy to. Verena Mösenbichler-Bryant.
Mösenbichler-Bryant. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. So as I mentioned, it's, as a band director, it's easy to throw 100% of ourselves into the job and almost become married to being a band, the program that we're working with. And so, I've always been intrigued ever since I found out about the two of you, how you guys, and I've always loved the way that, your promotional items, your the things that you guys put out, the way that you do stuff, both of you just really support one another in what you guys do. So I guess, and I want to get into like how your background story and everything, but let's just maybe start there. How much of a conscious effort is for you guys to, work so much for each other?
I think it's very natural. I mean, I see my office, and of course, I'm at home all the time now. Right. My office is right next to Stephen's office, and I am part of, the process. It feels like, and I'm part of every composition he writes, and they feel like children to me as well. And so, how could I not promote it?
Yeah.
She lets me know when it's not sounding good too. Yeah, I think it really is. It's very natural. It's never been a struggle. It's certainly not a competition or anything like that. I mean, what we do as conductor and composer really complementary. So that's great. But it's always been it's been a really good relationship, actually. I mean,
yeah. So, so take us back? How did this relationship blossom? And what is your background story?
The Midwest Clinic.
Okay.
In Chicago.
Many relationships have come out of that.
I don't know if all of you call relationships, but this one certainly was. Yeah, we met. This was well, the first time was 2003, I think it was. Yeah, and
my dad would bring me over from Austria. My dad is a conductor, and he would come to the Midwest Clinic to create connections and meet some friends that he has made over the years. And so one year he asked me if I wanted to come along, and of course I said yes. And Eric Whittaker actually was the reason that Stephen and I met. Dad knew Eric, and I was already looking for grad programs, and so I wanted to talk to as many people as possible about studying in the US. And we had breakfast with Eric, and Steve joined us at that breakfast.
Yeah, Eric and I were rooming together that year. We were running the booth, the BCM International booth, with Jonathan Newman and Jim Bunny every year. And so that year, Eric and I roomed together, and he said, going down breakfast. This was like Saturday morning, so we were completely exhausted. And said, you know, he knew the family, wanted to talk about school. Why don't you come along? And like, all right, come along. And so that's where we actually met. And then a couple of years later,
in 2005, I was already at Michigan State, and so we didn't really have any contact in between the 2003 to and 2005 Midwest clinics, but we saw each other and Kitty in the bar after a long day working at the booth.
That was the first night. We just set up everything because you were setting up the Mid-Europe booth with your dad. And
then
we partied all week.
That's awesome, and it's great. I love the story. It's just you know, and that's the whole point of these Maestro moments, is just to kind of dig in and see the people behind the professional. You know, who we portray ourselves as professionals, just kind of dig in. And I love that story. So, Verena, now you've got a very musical background, and you are from Austria, correct?
Yes,
and
I am.
So as a music educator, I'm a little curious to see. I have a great friend, Keith Kelly, in Ireland, and we talk about. He's a phenomenal band director and clarinetist, conductor, and he's got a wonderful podcast on bands of Ireland, and you know, he did some stuff this summer with DCI and helping them with some of their stuff. But I'm always intrigued with music education in outside of the U.S. So, what was it like for you to grow up and be a musician, and how did that? And obviously, your father is a very accomplished conductor, and I'm sure he had a lot of influence on you. But what was that like for you growing up?
So in general, music education is not part of our regular school system. In school, there's music being taught, but it's more like general music. If you want to learn an instrument, there's an entire school system to learn your instrument. So it's a music school system outside of the regular elementary, middle, high school system. And you can enroll into this music school system. And of course, I was enrolled very, very early to start piano lessons. And most of it is after school. So all the music teachers in Austria really teach in the afternoons and evenings. Right. There are some collaborations with local schools where they go into classrooms, and my sister is also a teacher, and she teaches in that in that music school system. And she's part of a program where once a week they go into the elementary school and they teach recorder, but also teach some, you know, some songs and percussion, body percussion things. And that way, hopefully, they can encourage some students to then come and take lessons in the school system. all of our really music education is based on the community band system.
Yeah.
Community bands are very strong, and every small village has at least one or multiple community bands. My town, about 3,600 people live in it. We have 2 community bands.
Wow. Wow.
Both of them have between 70 and 90 members in them, and
Wow.
then they have an additional youth group that's very strong. So it's the interest of the community band that leads to going into schools, and doing like a petting zoo, introducing the different instruments. The community band then will ask you, are you interested in learning an instrument? And if you say yes, they'll get in touch with your parents. They will even sign you up for the lessons. They will help with the paperwork. They even take part of the cost if you have some financial hardship. They will provide you with the instrument. And when you're part of the community band, you'll get your uniform from them. So it's very community band driven, and that's how I learned flute. And then I changed over to bassoon because my dad, as I mentioned before, and as you mentioned, is a conductor, and he conducted the community band I grew up with, the Bauernkapelle Eberschwang. And we had too many flutes in the band. And he said, you really need to learn bassoon. We need a bassoon. And it was a wonderful switch. So I switched to bassoon and then played bassoon in the community band. But I had such a wonderful experience playing in the community band because you sit next to musicians that are your age, but also to some that are in their 70s, 80s, 90s even.
Yeah. And
those relationships, it's really a family. And what's also beautiful is that many families participate as a whole in community bands.
Oh, wow.
So it always was my dad and my sister, she's an oboist, and myself. And, it's just cool how you connect as a family through music in community bands.
Yeah, that's awesome. In talking with Keith in Ireland, there's a lot of similarities with the Irish bands and even the British bands with that sense of community and the community rallying behind their community bands and stuff like that, and using that as an educational tool for music education. Do you find, and American band directors, we are guilty of being very egocentric and thinking that we have all claims on that which is band. I was reading an old book, Bands of America. Actually, it's an old book by Schwartz. I've been kind of digging into some of the old reading and stuff like that, and he was talking about Pat Gilmore, which we got. It's St. Patrick's Day, so we got to bring up the patron saint of band, Patrick Gilmore. But he was talking about with the World Peace Jubilee that he put on in 1872. He actually traveled over to Europe and brought in some of those great German, Austrian, some of the British and Irish bands to come and play in Boston at this World Peace Jubilee. And there's such a strong history of band stemming from Europe, and so much influence coming from that. And I one of the things I love, and I wonder. So many of our kids in American schools, how many of our kids go on and perform after high school? How many of them continue playing at the college level? It's a small percentage. On a good year, you'll have 20% of your band graduating seniors go on to continue playing, and then 5 or 10% actually majoring in music is a huge number. But with the community band, with the family approach to it, I love that it really locks in what we're trying to teach about music being a lifelong pursuit.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, Stephen, let's get with you back to you because everybody knows you as that's the composer, Stephen Bryant. As a band director, I know that we play a lot of your stuff. But what is your musical background? How did you kind of get into this world?
Well, I also grew up in a musical family. My father was a high school band director in Arkansas, um, from a tiny town in Arkansas, and then he went to uh, Arkansas Tech and then North Texas, and he was a really great jazz trumpet player. That was what he really wanted to do, but also knew that he needed to have a job,
Right.
and was actually a really, really fine music educator all around. And so took over the program in North Little Rock, Arkansas in about 1969, 1970, and was there. So I grew up around it, and he was a great arranger as well, and all-around musician. And so I didn't know that it was odd to grow up with not only instruments, but blank staff paper and orchestration charts and ranges and all that sort of stuff just around the house. I thought that was normal. So, a huge advantage there, and just that sort of support and knowledge in the air. But he never really, they didn't push me to become a musician. In fact, I think he probably would have been happy if I'd gone some other direction, because he knew exactly what it entailed to try to make a life in music. It's not simple and easy. And my mom was a public school teacher as well. So both public school teachers, public education, I very, very much highly value that because of that. I also saw how much work it is to be a teacher. So one, kudos to all of you and all of you out there who do it every day. It's incredibly important to our society. And also too, I knew I didn't have the stamina to pull it off. But I was really focused on composing early on. I was fascinated with notation. As soon as I started piano lessons at age 7, I was much more interested in writing stuff down and making up things than I was at playing the music I was supposed to be learning. Not a great practicer. Loved to play, hated practicing. That carried over to saxophone. I was good enough sight reader to get away with it in high school and in college, but I was never going to get any better. I was, I could fake it, but I wasn't going to make it. But I found all my time composing, and I could get really obsessive about that. So it seemed pretty clear which direction to go. So I majored in music and composition from the beginning with Francis Macbeth at Ouachita.
Oh, wow.
He was my undergrad teacher, an amazing teacher, hilarious man. Everybody out there that knows him, or I knew him, knows exactly what I'm talking about. And really pragmatic and a perfect first teacher for me. And then I went to study with Sidney McTee at North Texas for my master's. Also an amazing teacher.
Yeah, phenomenal, yeah.
Fantastic person, very supportive and really great. And then I got to study with John Curliano at Juilliard. So I had 3 amazing mentors and teachers. As with so many things in my life, I think I'm just really lucky. But I stress that to students and to anyone else. That's really important. Those mentors, not just if you're studying music, but wherever your path is, those people make everything come together in a way that really has a huge impact on your life. So that was my path. I just kept majoring in music and composition without any real plan on how I was going to feed myself. But here we are.
I think you did all right.
I did work for 10 years in computers at the IT department at Juilliard.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I did have a day job. This composing thing, I didn't come out of college like, all right, I'm a composer, pay me. That doesn't work that way.
So you mentioned some of your teachers that influenced you. What are some of the other influences that you have, that in what do you kind of go back to when you're maybe just listening on your own and stuff like that? What are some of the things that may not be a direct influence, but you're just kind of piques your ear and stuff?
Who do I steal from the most, you mean? I tell young composers that, steal, make it your own. Little moments that do exactly the thing you want to do. Learn how to do it, and in doing that, you'll make it your own. I don't really steal and put your name on other stuff. Don't do that. A huge influence, and again, I think this is a lesson for anybody out there. The people that you're in school with, your colleagues, your compatriots, they're going to go out and do similar things to you. And especially at Juilliard, I was in an amazing class of people. When I studied with Curliano that year, it was Eric Whitaker and John Mackey and Mason Bates. The year before was Jonathan Newman. That's how we all met.
Wow.
Paolo Prestini, who runs National Sawdust. Just go on and on and on. These people who have gone on to have really massive influence and extraordinarily talented. So it's important to surround yourself with people who are better than you and you rise to that level. So sort of an answer to your question, those people push you and you learn from each other in school and then for all these decades since. As far as the music I go back to, I love Nine Inch Nails.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. Very cool. So you guys, as I mentioned, you guys collaborate in a lot of different ways with some of the things, and looking at stuff on your site, we have actually we have a recording of Dusk, which when we were talking, you said that this was the video that we're about to show is what?
Oh, it's
who it's conducting is
her father, my father-in-law. Is conducting my piece with his professional. It's the police band of Bavaria. It's based in Munich. It's really, really great.
And I think we've got a clip of that that we're going to show, and this is off of YouTube. So, Stephen, talk to us a little bit about this piece, and obviously, I think it's great that out of this relationship, you've established a relationship with somebody across the sea. But talk to us a little bit about Dusk.
Dusk. Oh, this is a piece I wish I could write another one like it, or at least another one that sold like it. It was commissioned in 2003 by Langley High School, and Andrew Tchaikovsky was the conductor there. And this was when I was working full-time at Juilliard still. So I had a full-time day job, and I was composing. I never stopped composing. Right. But it was always at night or on the weekends or just when I could squeeze in a moment. And I had a great year. I had 6 commissions for band in that 14-month period. This was the last one, and I almost said no. I'm like, I can't do this. I have to write. I'm not sleeping. I have to work full time. But he said it was for the MENC National Convention in Minneapolis. And I was like, okay, I really should. So I don't really remember writing a lot of it. I think it was over 3 weekends. I'm not really sure.
Wow.
That's probably overstating. I probably took longer than that. I'm not very fast. But it was, I wanted to create something that was inspired by this sunset I witnessed when I was a student at Juilliard, when I lived in the dorm there, which is a 30-story tower. And I was on the 22nd floor and I had a view due west out over these amazing sunsets. And so I had this image in my mind since 1996 when I lived there. And this is 2003, 2004. I finally said, okay, I think that would be a great starting point for a piece. I do that a lot with kind of evocative imagery. I love imagery. Really, photography is as much an interest for me as music is. And then, I don't know, somehow there was music. I can't really, there's a blank spot there, but it's a lot of stacked fifths, so there's sort of a Copeland influence. It's kind of austere, and I just wanted to write something that was beautiful. And as I try to do with all my music, it feels familiar enough to really bring you in, but then hopefully surprises you. So it's on that line between too familiar and violates your expectations, but not in a way that loses you.
Yeah. Well, it's gorgeous.
Thank you.
So now this is a piece that, in the band community, this is a piece that is widely recognized, and I would argue is part of the standard repertoire in the band world today. I mean, which is a huge accomplishment for a composer. But this is something that you've actually come back to recently, right?
Yes. So during the past year, since nothing is normal for anyone, a number of us got together, led by Frank Kelly and Robert Ambrose, Creative Repertoire Initiative, to start adapting our music and helping others adapt their music for flexible ensembles, because no one knew what was coming for this past year. But are you going to have players in your classroom? If you are they going to be the same group every day? So it needed to be flexible, and for very few people, so that even the smallest, if you only have 4 people or 5 people, you could still play some music. And so we started adapting all of our works, and Dusk was, I think, one of the first pieces I adapted. down to, I mean, 2 versions, one for simply 4 musicians, almost any 4 musicians, and then there's a 5-voice version, and then all the percussion is optional. There's a piano part that helps fill out if you happen to have a keyboard or a guitarist or a harp or anything. The key point being that it can adapt to almost any situation you find yourself in, so you can play music and get a sense of that. And so I adapted several pieces, all of us have, and there's I think a wealth of this music, which I think is going to be very useful in the future too, for conducting classes and all sorts of and smaller band programs. I hope so.
Yeah. That coming back to that, that's important because I think, and I think that's one of the positive that is going to come out of the pandemic in the band world, because when we think of flexible instrumentation, when we think of reduced instrumentation, quite often those compositions are reduced difficulty, and most of those compositions coming out are, easier compositions that watered down a little bit. But I love the fact that composers like yourself are taking their great works that are written for artistic reasons, for regardless of level, and adapting them so that they can be played by more people.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's fascinating because this put us in a position where even big programs, even musicians that are very accomplished, are having to play in a very adaptable situation, and it's sort of sparked that. Like, this, just because it's flexible doesn't mean it has to be watered down.
Right. Yeah. Most definitely. And just recently, you're coming out with another version of that just came out, right?
Yeah, just like last week. I'm not great at social media anymore. I kind of avoid it, so I haven't told anybody. But first I made solo piano versions of a bunch of my pieces. Dusk, Nothing Gold Can Stay, The Low Arc of the Sun, about 6 pieces, and I'm including a solo piano piece I wrote for her birthday in January.
Nice.
Which is not even posted on the website yet. She's the only person that's ever heard it. So I'm putting together a whole book of solo piano works they're pretty easy. And in the process, it dawned on me, I could make a solo version or solo and ensemble version of Dusk from that. So I took the piano version, took out some of the melody, and wrote, a solo instrument version, and made versions for almost every band instrument there is. You can see them. Yeah, there's even more than are listed there. If you click on one, it'll take you to the others. So that I'm hoping that students who have played Dusk in the past or want to play it at home but can't even meet with anybody can play it. So right now it's for solo instrument and piano. And then I thought, well, what if you don't have a pianist or someone who can play the accompaniment at home with you? So I've made a synth version. It's piano, but I've kind of orchestrated, synthestrated it a bit of Dusk.
That's awesome.
Took out, it's just the accompaniment. And instead of, it's a video, so you can play along with it, but why should we do another click track? Everybody's done virtual things. Nobody wants to play the click anymore. So you want to play under a conductor. So I happen to have one here. And we shot a video of her conducting you with the accompaniment.
I love it.
And this is silent here because this is the solo instrument playing along with her. This is that opening solo, horn solo. Yeah,
I love that. And I love the fact that, at home we can get some sense of working in an ensemble, working with, a phenomenal conductor. And this is cool. So this is designed so that students can, have a performance, have the experience of working with a conductor, whether they're at home or, who knows, maybe even just taking it to showcase for their friends at school once we are able to get some stuff going. Because yeah.
And you're going to provide a video without me, right? So they could even project the video that's in the background for the audience.
Yeah, that was your idea.
Yeah.
So I haven't even posted this on my website. I just finished it today. So this is the premiere.
That's awesome.
So it'll go up later tonight or tomorrow, and then I will also put a version where you take her out and say you record yourself, make your own video, and then you could layer yourself on top of all those images and post your own version of it. And all the images are photos I took and videos I've made. It's all, like I said, I'm almost rather be a photographer at this point.
So you took all these photos then?
Everything's mine.
That's awesome. That's beautiful, man. You got a great eye as well as a phenomenal ear, man. Really cool. So, Verena, let's talk about this. How are you feeling right now? Just watching this kind of come to fruition from this collaboration that you've had.
I mean, it's wonderful when we get to work on a project together, and there have been several over the years, and I just wish there were musicians in front of me that I'm conducting.
Yeah.
Over the last year, I'm sure many have felt this way, but I feel like I've lost my identity a little bit.
Yeah.
Something I do on a daily basis, I don't do anymore, and I sit in front of the computer all day, and it's so different than making music with people in person. And while I enjoy those moments conducting alone and into a video camera, it's nothing like conducting musicians in person. So it's actually always bittersweet to watch myself conduct now, and especially a scenario where you don't get any response. You imagine it in your head. So hopefully we'll sooner or later be back to some in-person music making.
Yeah. And it is coming. I mean, there's different pockets around, Texas. I just had dinner with a good friend of mine, Todd Dixon, director of bands at Wiley High School, just outside of Dallas. And, those Texas bands, they've been going out through all of this, and being able to make some great music socially distanced, and in some ways very thankful for that, because they're showing that with safety, with precautions, we can do this, and we can have those in-person musical experiences. But a lot of other pockets, here in North Carolina, we're just now moving into in-person rehearsals. So now, Verena, you are currently the director of bands at Duke University, and so tell us a little bit about the program there. And now, have you guys gotten into? Are you able to play yet, or?
Unfortunately, not at all. The university has not given us permission to do any in-person woodwind or brass playing indoors. Our students don't even get to go into the music building right now to practice their instruments. So if they're playing in the dorm rooms, which is not ideal in either. So I don't foresee that it is going to change until the rest of the semester. You might have heard that we just recently made the news because we have had so many cases and a cluster forming. So right now, this week, actually, we have a stay-in-place order on campus, where the students, the undergraduates, are not to leave their dorms except for sport activities and getting meals and taking care of some necessary things. But so we've been virtual this whole time, basically since last March.
Yeah. Now, in addition to the university position, you're also very active in the community with several different projects. Tell us about some of the other things that you're involved in.
I'm involved in the Durham Medical Orchestra. We founded that orchestra in 2010. I came to Duke in 2009. It's a full symphony orchestra that usually has between 80 and 100 musicians. Many of them are medical professionals. Unfortunately, we also get to meet virtually only right now. But the members are very engaged and staying active in the orchestra, and we can't wait to get back to music making with them as well. And another group, Philip Briggs and I started a couple years ago. It's the North Carolina Youth Wind Ensemble, and unfortunately that is on hold currently until we can get back to in-person music making.
Yeah. So going back to the Durham Medical Orchestra, you guys have a cool little project that's not really music related, but Cook with the Conductors. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we were trying to come up with ways how to engage with our audience. We found ways to engage with each other, but also it was important for us to reach out to our audience members. And my Austrian background, and I really enjoy cooking, led to coming up with a Cook with the Conductor series. And we've had 5 sessions so far, and we've made traditional Austrian recipes from like a potato goulash to Kaiserschmarrn. We have one coming up next Sunday, and it's not too late to join us. We are doing a traditional Easter bread. It's a sweet yeast bread. Awesome. And we're making some breadsticks and some traditional Austrian dip with it. Very cool. We have had between 30 and 40 participants during these sessions, and everyone cooks along, or the majority of them cook along live with me. So it's been a lot of fun, especially the Christmas cookie session was fun. That one took a little longer than expected.
It was amazing though. I cooked along with her too. Usually now my role is I'm the lighting and camera and everything person. I'm her TA basically. That's when we do concerts as well. I always joke I'm the grad assistant that's never going to graduate. I set up the video camera and everything for the concerts. But for these, but last fall we were actually apart 3.5 months. She was in Austria and I was here.
Oh wow!
So I joined in and cooked along, and my mom and I joined in and made cookies following her, and it was amazing. They were actually delicious.
Oh, that's good. That was going to be my question. I was going to ask, I was going to maybe ask Verena who her favorite composer was, and I was going to ask you if Verena could really cook. So see how tight this bond is right here. So
I can prepare a few things decently, but there is no comparison. She's an amazing cook.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, very cool. So, as I was speaking with Josh earlier, and Josh actually has been involved with both of you. So, Josh, come on back on, and because he's done some work with the North Carolina Youth Wind Orchestra, right? Nick
Wind Ensemble, yeah.
Yeah. And then also, I don't know. He was actually involved with the commission of one of your pieces, Stephen. So he's actually got kind of a neat little tie-in to both of you. So, Josh, I just wanted to kind of talk to you. What, as from a band director's perspective, how important is it to develop these relationships with composers and also with top conductors and stuff and whatnot?
I mean, it's an irreplaceable relationship to develop. Being, especially as a public school educator, being able to connect students to the people who are actually writing and making the music that they're playing and listening to is terrific. I mean, and that's a lucky thing that we get to do as band directors with orchestral music educators. A lot of their standard reps still. I say this as a non-orchestral teacher, by the way, but a lot of their standard rep, most of them are all dead. And for us, we're lucky enough that we get to do things like this and collaborate and have conversations and communicate. And it's one of the things that I loved to do when I was in college was whenever we did a collaboration with a composer. When I was at UNCG, we worked with John Mackey, and we worked with Carter Pan and Joel Puckett. And I remember how exciting that was to be able to send an email to a composer and just say, so you wrote this thing that's like 15 bars of 30-second notes on snare drum at 180. I don't think that's physically possible. Can I play a role? Oh yeah, great. Do that. Perfect. And just that sort of dialogue is always so exciting. And so the kids like to hear about that, but then, when they actually get the chance to talk to folks, that's so much better. When the collaboration that we did, Dr. Aris Golden, who's at Michigan State now, organized the consortium for the Machine Awakes, which I also believe is recently been added to a flex band arrangement. Is that correct? Did I see that? Right. And I remember that being so cool that Aris reached out and invited folks. And this was early in my career. And I just thought, how great is this? Because I taught in a very rural school at the time. And for a lot of my kids, performing a commissioned work, being a group of students who play a work for the very first time, was something that they or I had probably never considered. But then the opportunity came about to get together with some of the other folks to work with you at NCSSM for one of the first performances, to actually get to talk to you and meet you in person and get your feedback immediately on a work that started in your brain and is now coming out of the other ends of their instruments, was just so cool. So I just, and you know, I'll be honest, I had no idea you guys lived in Durham before Aris started that commission. I was like, wait, the guy that wrote Dusk lives like 20 minutes from here? Why did I not know that? And it also does a lot, I feel like, to, you know, Aaron, you mentioned earlier, we all have this sort of like austere, right, of I am the band director or I am the composer. So getting able to get past that and get to like meet people and realize that, you know, we're all human beings, you know, and you're not just this machine composing music and writing these things. I think for the kids and for the conductors, it's so great. And, you know, being able to bring in guest conductors to work with our groups is always incredible. And I always feel like I'm just doing everything wrong because I just stand back and watch conductors like Verena, and I'm like, oh, well, that makes so much more sense. That, you know, that gesture totally does all the work. I need to stop. Just let it happen.
I think there's going to be a lot of people that wind up studying that video that you guys put together. I mean, just the short clip that we showed here, there's a lot of expression that's coming through, and you know, I love breathing. You know, how often do we think about that, especially in like a virtual video session, breathing with your wind ensemble or with any ensemble? But you know, there's so many little nuggets that just in that short little clip, I'm probably going to get out my notepad a little bit once I get a copy of that and start taking some notes and self-evaluation.
I actually, real quick, I had a question, Verena, about, you know, when you were talking about growing up in that community band setting, was that one of the things that sort of was an inception point for things like NCYWE? You know, the fact that we didn't have a community-based wind ensemble there's one in the Triangle, but in the, you know, in the central part, you know, we were missing that. How did that sort of influence your decision to sort of spark that project?
Exactly. I mean, you're nailing it on the head. Community, that sense of community I've experienced through growing up in a community band and through some other projects, WYOP and WYOP, the World Youth Wind Orchestra project that I've been leading for many years now, and the World Adult Wind Orchestra project. I just felt like there was something missing here, right in Durham, and you know, the Triangle, that would connect at the high school level. And so Bill Briggs and I, we put our heads together, and he felt the same way, that there was a great opportunity to establish another ensemble. And we can't wait to make music again with those students and give them that sense of community again.
Well, and we were planning on that tour. We were going to go and collaborate with a group in South Carolina before everything got shut down. And that's, again, it's using music to create opportunities for kids. And I'm for one, I'm honored to be, you know, a section coach with that group and work and collaborate with so many other wonderful musicians. And none of it is coming from a place of ego or selfish music making. It's just, it's a collaborative effort. And that's just so much fun.
Exactly. We do it because we love music, and we love making music with each other.
Now, you mentioned something there about the WYOP and the WYOP. So let's talk about that a little bit. Tell us a little, because I have a website here that I want to share with everybody. This got canceled last year because of closures and all that other stuff, and we have high hopes for this summer. But talk to us a little bit about this program.
So the Mid-Europe Festival is like I always like to compare it with the Midwest Clinic, but on a different scale, right? And it's in the Austrian Alps. It's about 1 hour from Salzburg. Many of the musicians fly into Vienna or into Munich, and then it's about a 2-hour train ride, 2.5-hour train ride to get to Schlabing. Schlabing is actually really well known for skiing. They always have an annual night race in Schladming that's very popular. And during the summer, we organize a music festival that years ago came out of WYOP, and the town really wanted to have something on an annual basis. And so we created the Mid-Europe Festival was created, and my dad is now the artistic director. And I've been organizing the World Youth Wind Orchestra Project, we call it WYOP, and the World Adult Wind Orchestra Project, we call it WYOP. So WYOP has been existing for a long time, basically since the festival started. And it's for musicians age 16 to 30. And it's basically like a band camp in Austria for a week, where you get to work with renowned conductors and composers. There are intense days of music making. We usually start at 9 a.m. and we go until 9 p.m. The night doesn't end at that point. And we spent the week, getting to know each other, working hard, focusing very intensely on the music, sectionals, of course. And then at the end of the week, we give a performance. We've been up to the Dachstein. You can see a couple of those images where we are standing on a bridge that's up on the glacier. And we've taken musicians there. There was an event there, actually, and we had small groups of WYOP play. The WYOP also plays the kids concert. We do a kids concert every year, and so that's what WYOP does. A few years ago, I was approached because a lot of the musicians in WYOP come for many years in a row, but then they age out at 30. So they wanted to know if there's any way they can come back. And so we created WYOP, the World Adult Wind Orchestra Project, which is for musicians age 30 plus. And it's been a huge success. We've had people from all over the world join us. Many of them are high school band directors, many of them maybe even college professors that teach, some community musicians that just want to play music. The schedule for WYOP is not as intense as WYOP. We usually have a 3-hour rehearsal in the morning, then there's a lunch break and a planned downtime in the afternoon for anyone that might want to take a nap or go up the mountain. And then we do usually some sectionals, and there might be an evening rehearsal or not. And WYOP also always performs as part of the Lange Nacht, translating to the long night, which happens on Thursday evenings. We have 5 stages set up through town, and on each stage, music happens simultaneously, all different kinds of music, from traditional Austrian polkas, marches, waltzes, to pop. So these are 2 groups I would encourage you to check out. The application deadline for this summer is March 31. We still don't know if it's going to happen. You might have heard that Europe is still struggling with the vaccine rollout, and numbers are still going up, but hopefully we have more news in April, and we can then determine if it's going to happen this summer or if we have to postpone another year. But yeah, it's a fun festival.
It's an extraordinary week. It really is. If anyone has any interest in it, talk to some of the people who've been there before. They can really give you the skinny on what it's like and why it's so many people have so devoted to it. I find it fascinating watching this group of musicians, a lot of whom don't share a language. The rehearsals are run in English, but that doesn't mean everybody understands English very well. But over the course of a week, music really does bring them together. Different intonation systems, different types of instruments, the European valve trumpets versus the American ones, and all these different sounds. And it can be kind of rough for the first several days. But by the end, you find this common ground, and every year I find it sort of a miraculous week to observe.
And again, that sense of community. I mean, in WYOP, you have musicians age 30 until, open end. I mean, age 70 plus. And it's so wonderful how those musicians from all over the world connect with each other through the language of music.
That's really awesome. That's very cool. And you guys have had some really phenomenal guest conductors over the years since your inception. What, 4 years ago? Is that what when you guys first started up? But you
WYOP
guys,
started, yeah, 4 years ago.
17. That was
Yeah.
17.
yeah. So, and who are some of the guest composers and conductors that you guys have had over the years?
Oh, we have had so many. I mean, Robert Reynolds was there, Frederick Fennell, Alfred Reed, and then of course Jerry Junkin, Kevin Settertall. The list goes on and on and on. Composers. I mean, Eric Whitaker has been there. We have had some incredible soloists. Velvet Brown, Ray Kramer came to conduct, and I mean, over the years, it's just been this incredible group of musicians and just friends. They're all friends now. It feels like we're all family, just one family.
That's awesome.
Well, I'm so sorry, Aaron. I was just gonna say I think the communities in Austria and in Europe in general appreciate and love not only live music but band music so much. You were talking earlier about the European traditions in band, and I imagine that's got to be part of it, because you're not playing. Sometimes here we play to empty halls, but you guys are playing to huge crowds of people, right?
Not always, but often we do. Yeah, the community really values the music making that happens, and they come out because I like in our town, everyone knows someone in the community band. It's either your neighbor or a cousin, or it's just those relationships, right? And so for the community bands, the concerts are fundraisers, and we usually go from house to house to sell our concert tickets. And who can say no? And then once you have the ticket, you gotta go. And the concerts are more than just concerts. That's the other thing. I mean, you go a little early. You might have a drink before you go into the concert venue or into the gym. Oftentimes they're just gyms. There is usually an extended intermission that lasts about 20-30 minutes. There are snacks you can buy. Everyone just socializes during the intermission. Then you go in for the second half. Concerts usually are about 2.5-3 hours long. They start at 8 and they last until 11 at least. And then after, I mean, it's like a party. The community stays around. The community band people then get to celebrate their achievements, and it's one big celebration in the end that lasts until 3-4 in the morning.
Awesome. Well, I'm making a quick note to myself. Have band members sell tickets door to door to make it. Yeah, I got that down. Increase attendance. I've got that one. I'm stealing that one from you guys. Well, Verena, Stephen, I just want to. We are actually a little over an hour now, and I just want to thank you guys so much for giving your time tonight, letting us learn a little bit more about who you are. Not just what you guys do. You guys are beautiful people. You're a beautiful couple, and we really appreciate everything that you guys are doing for the band community. Thank you so much for coming out tonight.
Thank you for inviting us, to both of you, for everything you're doing through all of this with music education, and anyone out there who's a music educator. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate that you invited us to this, but also the things you're doing on a daily basis.
Awesome. You guys are kind. Thank you so much.